So our speaker today, we have two speakers. The first one is Elisa Ferron, and she's from Zembo Motorcycles SMC Ltd. It's based in Kampala, Uganda. And Elissa is a sales team lead, and she's also in charge of fundraising, investor reporting, and public relations at Zembo Motorcycles in Kampala. She has played an instrumental role in introducing e-mobility in East Africa. She has a master's in sustainability and sales management, and she's passionate about energy sustainability, energy access, and e-mobility. And she had a really interesting project in 2019 where she was leading fundraising efforts to provide solar panels for villages in the Himalayas. Really, really passionate about access. Thank you, Elissa, for joining us. We will start off with you even as we wait for our second speaker. Thank you for joining us. How is Kampala?
Kampala is nice. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Kampala is nice, but cloudy today.
Cloudy. We should send you some sun from Mombasa.
Please do.
Yes, yes. All right. Maybe you can tell us a little more about Zembo Motorcycles and what you're doing in Kampala.
So Zembo assembles and sells electric boda bodas to boda boda drivers. We sell our motorcycles on a pay-go basis. So basically, a driver is able to pay for his motorcycle on credit for 2 years and will pay for each battery swap that is made. So we have a network of 27 swap stations around Uganda, mainly Kampala all the way to Masaka. And the drivers are able to swap their battery and pay per kilometer driven. So that's why it's a pay-go motorcycle.
Thank you for that. I think that's an interesting space. I remember our speaker Adam mentioning that, we have solutions made for Africa, such as this, where we're moving from motorcycles and boda bodas that are combustion driven, and we now have electric, and you can see Zembo is contributing to this space. It is said that e-mobility is one of the biggest job creators in the coming decade. Could you tell us how many jobs you've created as Zembo along your value chain?
So we currently have 75 employees, of which more than half are on the field. So what I mean by on the field means they're swappers, what we call swappers. They are at each station and are helping our drivers swap their batteries. We also managed to train a lot of motorcycle and battery tech employees. So that's also a big part of our team. And the rest is in office. So for 200 motorcycles on the road, we have 75 employees.
Mm-hmm. And of course, we can see the value chain in terms of the people that you provide the motorcycles with, and creating jobs in that way as well.
Yeah, of course. I think we're improving on the boda boda drivers' living conditions by increasing their revenue by up to 60%. 60% is a number we had prior to COVID. So we had conducted a social impact analysis to know how much more money they were getting. Now that fuel prices have gone up, I think that our social impact is even higher than that. So yeah, we're also improving. We're not only training employees to work in the e-mobility sector in Uganda, but also improving the living conditions of boda drivers themselves.
Okay, thank you for the great work that you're doing. And you've mentioned swapping stations a bit, and could you tell us how the swapping stations work, and what kind of challenges are you facing with these swapping stations? Because they are one of the solutions that help with reducing the long charging hours for EVs.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, not everybody has access to grid here, and it wouldn't always make sense to provide a charger to a driver. So what we do have are charging stations. It's a network that um, covers Kampala extensively, and then goes all we have a solar corridor that goes all the way to Masaka. So we have three different types of stations. We have 100% off-grid and solar stations. We have grid-only stations, and we have hybrid stations. So a combination of both the grid and solar, because solar allows to compensate with the blackouts that we have here in Kampala. So we can afford to do grid in terms of environmental impact, because the grid here is kind of like in Kenya, it's 95% green and hydro. So these are the three types of stations that we have. Inside these stations, you have from 10 to 20 chargers, I would say, where the batteries are constantly charged, and a driver can just drive into a station and get his battery swapped. I say his because for now we have only male drivers. We're looking into training female drivers. We have a pilot project ongoing, but for now it's only male drivers who come to stations and swap their batteries within minutes.
Oh, that's an interesting fact. What would you say is a limitation for more women driving boda bodas in Uganda?
It's not very common to find a female boda driver in Uganda. I think because of the entry barrier into this market. Not only is it an uncomfortable job for some females, but also it's financially demanding. So paying that down payment for women is not always easy. So the goal is to actually break that entrance barrier and train these women to be able to then make a living off, like to empower them and to make a living off of a boda boda or delivery at least. Okay.
We hope we can get a better report when we speak to you again. about the gender parity there. All right. One of the biggest opportunities would be in manufacturing. And if we are able to get e-mobility or electric mobile vehicles and boda bodas manufactured in Africa, are there plans by Zembo to have a manufacturing plant in Uganda?
So I think the whole e-mobility stakeholders, we're all pushing to get most of the value chain in Uganda, either it be for motorcycles or batteries. So of course, raw material for batteries often comes from Congo, or other countries in Africa. But as of now, there are no transformation plants in Africa. There are some cell assembly actors in Kenya and even a plant in Uganda. So we are reassembling batteries. We do not transform the raw material into cells, though. We assemble our motorcycles here. The parts are not manufactured in the region, sadly, but hopefully we will be sourcing our motorcycle parts from regional suppliers that are beginning to rethink the value chain of e-mobility. So yeah, we're looking into this in the coming years to assemble parts that come from either Uganda or East African region.
All right, amazing. And Uganda, I know, has taken big steps ahead. I know that like Chira Motors is looking to manufacture most of the parts in Uganda and assemble them as well. So well done to you and to the rest of the players in the e-mobility sector in Uganda. All right, so in a number of years, we will be facing a crisis with the e-waste as our EV batteries reach their end of life. Has your company begun to think through some of the solutions for waste management, e-waste management, and how do you plan to tackle this?
So I would say this is one of the most common questions we get when we say we deal with batteries, because of course you always have to think of end of life of batteries. And as a matter of fact, we already have a lot of batteries here that are not able to be in circulation anymore. So how do we tackle this? We have different strategies. One of our most recent strategies is battery reassembly. So what we do is we disassemble a battery, test all the individual cells, and reassemble with whatever cells are actually working. The cells that do not have the remaining capacity that will enable them to be on motorcycles are reused for solar storage purposes. So either reassembled or reused. Then the whole part of recycling the material, this we might outsource. There are actors such as Acceleron who are based in Kenya, planning to come to Uganda to actually do battery recycling. So yeah, a lot of stakeholders are starting to look into it. So either we will have the capacity to do it in-house or we will outsource this.
Okay, that's great to hear. Because I think, as you said, it's one of the questions that we get asked a lot in the e-mobility space. So
Definitely.
It's great to hear that you have plans to be able to deal with the waste and to collaborate. And I like that you've mentioned the partnership with Acceleron, because my next question is on what kind of partnerships, both public and private, has Zembo been able to have in the past and now?
So we partner with a number of actors. Actually, it's partnerships. The word partnership is very vague. We do receive financial support from a number of organizations. We do have operational partnerships with either public actors such as KCCA or the Ministry of Science and Technology. We also partner with battery suppliers such as Acceleron in Kenya or Boda Work in Uganda. We work alongside motorcycle suppliers as well, such as Zembo Motors. So we have a wide range of partners, and if we want to transition towards e-mobility in Africa, we'll have to do it together. So in any case, we're always willing to discuss with any stakeholder on field.
Amazing, amazing. And my final question is, do you, as Zembo, plan to expand to other countries? Can we wait for you to come here in Kenya and, teach us?
I think you already have a lot of e-mobility providers in Kenya, more than in Uganda. So yeah, definitely, we will expand. I mean, our first job is to cover Uganda extensively, and then eventually we will move to other countries, but it's not in the short term.
Okay. Thank you for that. Let's
Thank you
give
very
her
much.
a hearty clap as we also pick up some questions from the audience. Any questions for Elisa? I'm sure you might want to ask, or did I ask all your questions? Did I represent you well? Okay. Any questions for Elisa? If not, we will release you, Elisa. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Being able to educate us and tell us more. If we ever come to Uganda, and I know there are some online people here from Uganda, I'm sure they'll reach out to you. Maybe you can just put your email in the chat, and people can reach out to you to hear more about Zembo and how they can get into the e-mobility space. Another hearty clap for... Okay.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Okay, you too.